Hey everyone.
Students know, students' needs. Stay tuned for today's episode where we'll be hearing directly from the student voices on our commission. I'm Judith Gutierrez,
And I'm Michael Lemus.
and this is Financial Paid.
So, welcome everyone. We are super excited to be talking to you all about the Student Aid Commission and the format of the commission itself. And today we're super excited to actually be joined by two wonderful guests who are student commissioners. And just to quickly go ahead and talk about what the actual commission is, it's a group of people, about 15 people, that represent different industries. So we have folks that are in higher education, we have folks that are students, like our guests today, and then also that are community members. And basically, what these commission members do is provide insight and guidance to us here at the California Student Aid Commission on how we should move forward about our policies and basically what we provide through the commission itself. So today, we're very excited to be joined by Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Alvarez, who are two student commissioners.
That is correct. Great introduction, Michael, and it's such a pleasure to have you both commissioners, Commissioner Alvarez and Commissioner Rodriguez. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know you have some busy schedules, but it's always awesome. And honestly, we can't do it enough of just having that student voice in these spaces and hearing from you directly. And as we've mentioned, our podcast is very conversational. We want to get to know you. We want to know what motivates you, and we want to know how to best support students. So that is definitely our goal for today. But let's go ahead and start with just some introductions. Let's hear from you. Seeing the screen right now, I'm more than happy to introduce Commissioner Caroline Alvarez. If you'd like to introduce yourself, share your university or college, your major, anything else you'd like to share about your student experience.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having both of us on this. This is really exciting for us. As mentioned before, my name is Commissioner Alvarez, but my first name's Caroline, so feel free to just call me Caroline. I am in my third year at Fresno State. Go Bulldogs! And I plan on majoring in nursing, so I'll be applying for that nursing program sometime in the near future. And this is actually my first year on the commission.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and hear from Commissioner Rodriguez. Share a little bit about
Thank you
yourself.
so much for
Welcome.
having us. I'm very excited to be here. I currently am attending Mendocino College up in Northern California, and I should be graduating soon with my associate's degrees. I'm getting one in political science, history, and social sciences. So I'm very excited for that. I'm also currently student trustee here at Mendocino College, and I'm also a student member on the California Community College Trustees Board. So I'm very excited to be here to share about the commission and our role there. So thank you for having us.
All right. Well, thank you both for just joining us and then for providing just some wonderful background. We're always very interested in working closer with our student commissioners. As Judith mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we really want to hear from the student perspective because, of course, we are the California Student Aid Commission. So we could not do the work that we do without actually having student insight and, of course, learning about your background. So thank you for your service and what you do on behalf of the commission. So right now, what I would love to do is actually get some information on what you all do in the commission. Like, what does that entail? What does that role mean to each of you? So why don't we go ahead and start off with Commissioner Alvarez?
Yeah, as mentioned before, you guys said that the student voice is incredibly important to this commission. So just in short, that's what our role here at the commission is, to provide that feedback based on our experiences as students, but not just us, the experiences that we've heard from other students. So if we hear that a policy, maybe that students aren't really enjoying, or if there's an initiative that is really helpful and we want to continue holding that initiative, then we'll be more than happy to share that with the commission. And then we go from there and they make decisions and we help make those decisions. So it's really just providing that student voice. While I do go to a CSU, I'm not just providing the voice for CSU students, I'm providing that voice for all students in California.
Thank you for that. And why don't we pass it on over to Leo?
Yeah, so recently I was notified that I'm the first undocumented student to serve on the commission, which is very exciting, and I'm I'm I hope I'm not the last. But I definitely feel a lot of responsibility, but it is an honor to have been appointed to the agency that processes the California Dream Act application for AB 540 students. As to my role on the commission, I think it is to present and work with Commissioner Alvarez to present a strong um, position that echoes the needs of students. And as for myself, I think whether that position is controversial or not, it is our job to bring it to the agency that oversees financial aid in the state. Um, and from what I have seen, the commission is steps ahead of creating an environment that allows us to really speak up. But statewide, I really want to help student leaders and our positions be respected and listened to. So it's really exciting to be on the commission.
I definitely hope we continue to be welcoming and continue to open the floor for input. So glad that you're taking the time to speak on behalf of students, because I know on top of your busy school schedules or class schedules and the work you do, being on the commission is that extra piece of work. And so we want to definitely be mindful of that and take every word you say, uh, take it into consideration very strongly, and apply it to the work we do. I think everyone at the commission can agree that we're doing our best to apply your feedback into the work we do. So I did want to ask, how did you hear about CSAC? How did you hear about the commission? And what really motivated you to not only get involved, but to serve on the commission itself as a student? And anyone can take this question.
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer that first. So currently, am part of the student body government at Fresno State. And before that, I wasn't really too involved with my school. But being in this new position for me, I've been able to talk with other student leaders at different CSUs. And in that, I met a really great person who told me that there's an opening for a student commissioner here at CSAC, and he felt that I would do great in this role. And I was a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie. It was something that I didn't really see myself doing, but I wanted to really put myself out there, and I loved working for my school right now and helping those students. It brings me a lot of joy to know that I'm making a difference. So I decided to apply for CSAC, this commissioner position. And while we haven't been to many meetings, we have been to a couple of them, and I've enjoyed them. And I always feel very involved and respected. So I'm so happy that I went out of my way to apply for this, and I definitely don't regret it at all.
Yeah, and I think I definitely have somewhat of the same experience. The first time I ever heard about the California Student Aid Commission was when I applied for the California Dream Act application. Since then, I have had a slight understanding of what CSAC is, but it really all started when I became student trustee at my community college. Through that, I was appointed to the Triple CT board, which is where I met the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. And it was them who reached out to me and presented this opportunity. And I thought, what better way to work on behalf of students than going directly to the commission that oversees so much financial aid and presenting the issues that are pressing to students now. Although I already had two other titles at the time that keep me up at night, it was really an opportunity I could not pass. And it's really been an amazing experience so far.
That is awesome. Thank you both for sharing. And I'm glad that you're enjoying your experience on the commission. As Judith mentioned, we really want to be intentional and hear you all out and really take what you're saying into consideration as it applies to the things that we do. Because here at CSAC, especially over the last year and a half, we've been expanding upon so many different initiatives, different ways for us to reach out to students. A lot of that being, of course, in the social media realm and making sure that we're actually touching base with students where they're at. And a big part of what you all just said, which is really cool, is that I think all of us here, including myself and Judith, we all have been student leaders, but also part of student government. And I know Judith, of course, being an honorable past UCSA president, and I was involved in ASI and CSSA when I was at Cal Poly Pomona and Cal State Fullerton. And so it's really cool to just see how many students are inspired by the work that they already do, but can also connect the dots to like, hey, there's this organization, there's this commission that literally gives this money to students, but a lot of people don't know what CSAC is. And so it's nice to actually have those student representatives that you all can go ahead and provide insight on behalf of the students, but you can also go back to the students and tell them, hey, did you know about CSAC? Because a lot of people, and Judith and I know this very well, CSAC's brought up and they're like, what? But if they hear things like, oh, FAFSA or Cal Grant or California Dream Act application, our goal is to connect all those dots so that when anyone hears that, they will automatically think of the California Student Aid Commission as that resource. But we know it's going to take work, and that means that we need to have those student voices on our commission in order to go ahead and make that happen. So with that being said, we want to know more about the student experience and what's going on. We know that we're living through a pandemic. We want to know from each of you, what are some trends you're seeing in regards to the pandemic, and how do you think the commission can go ahead and assist in just helping students, just going about their day-to-day lives when it happens to just be about all things associated with just pursuing an education these days. So why don't we start off with Leo this time, and then we'll go to Caroline.
Awesome. It is really a tough time to be a student right now. And I think many of us seek stability, which many of our institutions haven't given us. Thanks to the work here at CSAC, I think our financial aid has remained one of the most stable things in our experience right now. And that has really taken a lot of work behind the scenes from all of you. And it's really honorable to see. I think a trend I have seen is students having to choose between attaining a higher education or working to sustain themselves. A lot of students in my experience are having to choose to work. And what that disconnect shows is that students don't know how much financial aid is available. And it's really hard to put that out there, especially since everything is either online or in person, and then it switches back and forth. One of the biggest things I think CSAC can really do to help students is advocate for students, and it's already doing that in many spaces. But I think we know the high cost of living is driving this drop in student enrollment. And I think any initiative that helps students and creates financial aid reform that CSAC can push will definitely benefit a lot of students and will really solve that core issue of having students choose between working or really their dreams.
Yeah, and just to basically reiterate everything that Leo said, COVID, this whole pandemic is not an ideal situation for anyone. There's been adjustments, not just for students, but for the whole world, basically. And it can be really overwhelming as a student. Personally, I went through it. I'm sure Leo gone through it. A lot of students, I know, being in my position at my job, I heard a lot of issues with food insecurity, housing issues, job loss. Some students may not apply for financial aid. They may not know about it, so they feel like they have to pay their whole tuition on their own. And with the job loss, that kind of made them choose, as Leo said, between keeping another job or going to school. And on top of it, you're a student as well, and it's just a lot of stress that can really build up. And CSAC, we have these incredible programs. CalFresh is a big one that I'd like to mention. For those of you watching, if you don't know what CalFresh is, it is a program that CSAC offers that gives little stipends every month for groceries. You do have to fit an eligibility list, but either way, you should definitely apply. I think it would be really helpful. We also give grants for housing too. So that could really help somebody who's on that borderline of, should I still go to school if I have all these overwhelming issues? You still can. There's still so much help that's out there. So I know that it's stressful. I know that it's a hard time, but just keep in mind that there are people and programs like CSAC that are here to help you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that response. Very detailed, definitely provides a lot of insight. And just in general, to take a moment of reflection and really think not just about the times we're in. We understand this pandemic has taken a toll on students, but I'm really hoping, and I hope I'm not alone in thinking this, but I hope there is a light at the end of the tunnel soon. And so thinking within the current times, but also with that light at the end of the tunnel, with maybe looking into the future and the student experience post-pandemic, if that makes sense. I'd like to know what advice you have for your fellow peers as they continue to pursue this higher education in the current environment, but also for anyone even considering a post-secondary education in the near future.
Yeah, I would say something every student can do to uh, ensure their success is to realize the power of their voice and to use your voice to advocate for yourself, to ask for help when you need it, and to really take control of your educational path. At the end of the day, you are in charge of your future, and you need to use your voice, even though it can be hard at times and very scary. uh, it really is up to you to advance your own goals and ensure your own success. And it all starts with advocating for yourself. And most importantly, be proud of yourself if you are still in school, and really whatever you're doing in life right now, you should be proud of. We all have individual stories and backgrounds, and it's impossible to compare ourselves. So I hope the only thing we will share is that we will get through these times, and hopefully show up in a history book somewhere one day. But yeah, take control, use your voice, and really be in these spaces and you know fight for yourself.
I love that. And before we hear from Commissioner Alvarez, I wanted to piggyback off of something you said, Commissioner Rodriguez, is that be proud of yourselves aspect. None of this has been easy, and students and families know that at CSAC we are cheering you on and constantly trying to remind folks that there are resources out there available, financial aid or any kind of support. And there was a quote someone shared with me when I graduated college, and it said, be proud of how far you've come and have faith in how far you can go. And I don't know who the quote is by, but you reminded me of it. And I hope it provides some hope for those listening in, because I definitely love that quote. It's very motivating. But Commissioner Alvarez, what advice do you have for your fellow peers?
Yeah, right now, hearing you mention hope, I think a lot of students have maybe lost hope in this whole situation. And that's fair. That's fair. I know there are some days where I was really over it too. But have hope in your college, in these programs, in your professors. You are going to come across some professors who, yeah, you know what, maybe online learning, they just aren't for it. But you're also going to have really amazing professors who take the time to make sure that you are comprehending everything that they're learning or that they're teaching you, and that they're going to have office hours every day, that they're going to answer emails in the middle of the night when you're having like emotional breakdown and you just don't know what what the subject is. There's going to be a lot of great people who can help you. CSAC obviously is a great option for financial aid, for CalFresh, for a lot of issues. So I think just to remind students that, yeah, this isn't the best situation to be in, but there's a lot, like what Leo said, there's a lot that you could advocate for, and there are so many resources that can help you. And yeah, we just got to get through this together.
Yeah. And on that note, Michael, I hope you agree. I want to take the opportunity to just give a big thank you to teachers and professors and essential workers for all the work you're doing and for just putting in that emotional energy as well and helping your students. I think that's very valuable during these difficult times. So big shout out to teachers out there. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I want to thank both of our commissioners for just instilling hope in me because, living through a pandemic, going into almost year 3, it is easy and understandable for people to just lose aspects of hope, right? Because there's just so much going on. Every day, we're just being inundated by so many things in the news that, yeah, it's totally understandable why someone would be losing hope. But I think what you all just did a wonderful job at is helping people to understand that the assistance is there. And to Judith's point, absolutely. I think educators, all the essential workers, all the people that are on the ground doing the work each and every day, whether that's virtually or in the classroom, whatever it may be, we know it's difficult. And sometimes, they don't get all the recognition they deserve. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to go ahead and just give them at least that virtual thank you, to go ahead and have them. Hopefully, they're hearing this at some point or seeing it. But thank you both. And the last question I have, which is kind of related, is students sometimes they don't know what CSAC is. They may come across you, for example, and they're like, I saw, like maybe it's on social media or on LinkedIn, they saw that you updated your position and suddenly you're a commissioner at the California Student Commission. They're like, what the heck is that? How can students get connected to CSAC? Like if you were to be asked that, what would you tell them? So why don't we start off with Caroline and then we'll go to Leo.
Yeah, I definitely, in my position, I have a lot of people come and ask me like that same exact question. What is CSAC? I would probably advise them to even social media. Students nowadays are always on social media. CSAC has an Instagram, a Twitter, get involved with those, watch these podcasts, even just go to the CSAC website. That website is filled with so many resources, so many explanations on what CSAC does, how we can help. We're everywhere essentially. So I would just really advise them to go and basically Google it because you can really find out a lot. Also, your university, your college, they will know what CSAC is. So if you feel stuck and you really have no other resources, you want to talk to somebody in person, reach out to your counselors or your professors. Some professors, I'm sure, will know what CSAC is. So there will be somebody out there who can lead you in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, I think when it was announced that me and Caroline were appointed to the California Student Aid Commission, a lot of community members and even some local press were confused about what CSAC is. And the first thing I tell them always is it's the largest state run financial aid agency in the country. And really, all the job uh, everyone does in CSAC is really uh, it changes a student's ability to access college and higher education. And if I were to tell students how to connect to CSAC, like Caroline said, social media. CSAC has a strong social media presence, and also just connecting with us, the commissioners. We have almost a direct line to CSAC, right? So as even though I am a commissioner on the commission, I am also a resource to students, and I always want to present myself as a resource because at the end of the day, we are here to serve students, and really, it's really easy to connect to CSAC. It's not like any other government organizations that kind of have that stigma where they're hard to reach. CSAC is really accessible and really, um, it's more involved than you think it is.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that that word was brought up, accessible, because to Judith's point, we are definitely trying our best. We know there's always room for improvement like any other space. But I think for us, it's trying to find all the ways that we can reach students and getting on those platforms and learning eventually those dance trends for TikTok, because we know we got to get on it. But we're trying our best, and I think students are trying their best, and all those in between are trying their best. And I think that this episode did a really good job at just instilling hope. So thank you both for just joining us, for taking the time. I know that it's busy being a student leader, being a commissioner, but just taking the time to be able to join Judith and I in this conversation has definitely been really inspiring. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
How awesome was that? I think, and we really are the biggest state-run financial aid distributor in the country. I think we're so close that it feels like we're so small, but we really are this large state agency, and I think that's amazing. To your point earlier, Michael, I thought it was funny that even I, as a former UCSA president representing the UC campuses across the state, I didn't even know what CSAC was until I was invited to a commission meeting to talk about, the priorities of the UC students and to advocate on behalf of, basic needs and the total cost of attendance. And I, even as a Cal Grant recipient, knew that I had financial aid. I knew where the financial aid office was on campus, but I didn't know where that money was coming from.
Yeah.
And now we're here. So I'm glad you made that point. We are trying to get that name recognition. And if you're listening in or watching us today, like and subscribe and share, because we are your trusted agency and organization that is going to help you get the resources and financial aid you need to pursue that college degree or vocational training, whatever it is, post-secondary education. We are here to help make that happen.
Absolutely. And Judith, you're not alone, because honestly, my entire undergrad and graduate school experience, I did not know what CSAC was. And I eventually learned about it. And to your point, I knew about the financial aid office. I knew I was getting financial aid, but I didn't have, I just didn't have the understanding. And I think that's what we're trying to do, and being on all these platforms, podcasts, social media, all these things, is expanding upon that and really getting to that message that CSAC is here to help. And we have a variety of different ways to help, but it starts with understanding what CSAC is and what we do. And I think that, day by day, we're getting there and helping people to understand what that is.
Let's go into the myth buster. And I'm more than happy to read a myth we've received, but
Absolutely.
I'm also happy to give you the floor if you want to go ahead and read.
Go for it. Yeah. Feel free to let us know, and then we'll jump right in.
Let's do it. So a student once said, I already submitted my financial aid application last year, so I don't need to complete one this year.
Oh my gosh, I hear this time and time and again. And I was one of those students at one point where I'm like, oh, I submitted it in high school. I thought it was just for my whole college experience. And we hear that from a lot of students. And again, sometimes it's just a lack of understanding, which is why we're here to clarify and bust these myths, is because if you are pursuing, post-secondary education, you are actually renewing your FAFSA or California Dream Act application every year that you're actually at that institution. Why you do that is because, of course, finances change. Things change every year, right? For a lot of people. And so you're wanting to go ahead and keep that information updated. The good news is that it doesn't take as long as it does the first time, because the system pre-populates a lot of that information that you actually already put in. So it's much quicker. But gosh, that is so important, because sometimes people think, oh, it's for my entire college experience. And if you don't actually renew your application, you don't have aid for the next year. So it's super important that we talk about that, because if you are wanting aid the whole time, or at least the majority of the time that you're at a post-secondary institution, you do need to go ahead and renew that application.
Yeah, every year, like clockwork. Deadline remains March 2nd every year. So always have that ready, and applications open up every year, October 1. So you have that time frame. You have some time to apply and reapply up until, you're basically done with your undergraduate degree. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but for our foster youth community, we also have the Chaffey Grant that foster youth receive. It's a short application process that you do aside from either your FAFSA or California Dream Act application. And that one is a one-time application.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. And it's not necessarily tied, from my understanding, to a specific deadline, but
Yeah.
it is tied to applying via the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. But you are correct. It's its own application. It is very quick. And honestly, here in California, there's a lot of resources for foster youth and a lot of funding. And so we highly encourage students to take advantage of the whole financial aid process, which does include the Chaffey Grant for Foster Youth.
Well, this was fun. It was so great to hear from our student commissioners today. Thank you again, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Rodriguez, for joining us today. We hope that you will continue to stay tuned as we release more episodes, and I hope this was helpful. So get those applications in. There is still time. March 2nd deadline, and we hope we hear you, or we see you, and we hope you hear our next episode. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Bye, y'all.